Good evening, everyone. We'll call the meeting to order. Joy, would you please call the roll?
Hamilton,
Yes.
Rasmussen,
Yes.
Boyer,
Yes.
Silvers,
Yes.
Hammers,
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Thank you. Now, before we move to our consent agenda, are there any changes to this evening's agenda or additions? I will move to our consent agenda. We have approval of minutes from the April 23rd council meeting. We have approval of liquor licenses for Quality Quick Stop, the Veterans Club, Hy-Vee, and Adela's. We have a resolution for hiring of one-person summer help, Logan Swanson, at $8 an hour for the street department. And we have a resolution for the hiring of Park and Rec of Michael Hamilton, Willie Gent, Dalton Cook, John Payne, Shelley Carnes, Jean Dorothy, Courtney Parker. These are park maintenance and youth administrators. And our claims are in the amount of $640,308.25. Are there any questions regarding those consent agenda items? Now entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Boyer, second by Hallie. Please call the roll.
Boyer,
Yes.
Howley,
Yes.
Rasmussen,
Yes.
Silvers,
Yes, with abstaining on the approval of the minutes.
Hamilton,
Yes, with abstaining on resolution for hiring park and recreation personnel. The first person listed is my son.
Yeah.
okay, Hammers,
Yes. Sir. Show his eye.
Okay, that's passes unanimously. Thank you. Now we'll move on to our appearances before the council. First, this evening we have the Vintage Power Wagon Rally with a request for the use of the square. Is Alan Melcher here?
Matt Welcher.
Okay, sorry about that. It's Alan on my appearance here. Hi, Matt.
Good evening.
How are you?
Good, good. Yourself?
Good. 25 years.
25 years, yes, sir.
Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you. It's going to be a big year, and we're excited about it. Well, what we have here is the 25th Annual Vintage Power Wagon Rally is fast approaching, and we are again asking your permission to block off the square on Saturday, June 9th for our Power Wagon Parade. As in past years, we are asking the City of Fairfield's help with providing barricades to block off the square from midnight on Friday night until noon on Saturday, as well as law enforcement to provide traffic control for the parade.
Thank you, Matt. And we obviously this is a very important event to our community. It's sort of signals the beginning of our summer festivals, and with this long tradition, we certainly want to support it the way we have in the past. So, Council, I'd entertain a motion to approve the request.
So moved.
Moved by Hammis,
Second.
second by Silvers. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Thanks very much. May you have great weather. How many are you expecting this year?
Since this is our 25th, we're looking at approximately 125 to 140 trucks. Usually we have 90 to 100 and 300 to 600 people. My understanding is all the hotels and all the park places to rent for a camper spot are already booked for that week. So we're extending it a little bit. Instead of Wednesday through Sunday, we're starting on Monday. So we're going to try to make it big for the community and big for us. And just we're doing a lot as far as just more customer appreciation this year, giving a lot of stuff away and cutting rates for the people, you know, to show that we appreciate them coming here for this one.
Great. Thank you very much. It really does underscore the value of these type of festivals and events for our community. So really, thank you for all your organizing.
And thank you guys very much.
You're
Appreciate
very welcome. Yeah, so next we have a request from the second big event in our season. That's the All Things Italian Festival. Dan Raymond.
Good evening, everyone. Would you all like to see a copy of the map of the square for the closings? It's pretty much what we do every year. Want to see it?
Yes, you can pass those. Yes, pass those out.
Yeah. I apologize. One of them has my scribble on it, so I apologize in advance for that. So essentially what we're requesting this year is we're going to try to be a little bit more accommodating and understanding of the vendors around the square. And so for this year, we're only asking to close at 8 o'clock in the morning the parking that's on the Main Street side of the square, but on the square, just those parking spots in the morning as our unloading zone while we set up for the fair. Then at 2:30, we will block off one lane beyond the parking spaces on Main Street and Broadway to start to move out some of the cars. And then at 4:30, we'll close off the normal streets at Main, diagonally across Main and Broadway, and diagonally across Broadway and Court, to block off the square entirely and allow whatever parking cars that are parked there to move out before the festival starts. We say the festival starts at 5, but really in earnest, it really doesn't begin until about 5:30 or 6. So that'll give about 90 minutes for those few straggling cars to pull out. And that will allow the stores that stay open on the square access to all of their parking spots for as long as we possibly can till about 4:30 in the afternoon.
Thank you. And this is a Saturday.
And this is for Saturday, June 16th.
Council, any comments on the plan?
I always like to ask the chief if she's signed off on it.
Yes.
Enough for me.
Great. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Hallie,
Second.
second by Hamilton. Any other discussion? Not all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Great. Thanks, Dan. We'll
And I
see
just
you.
want to add that if you like bagpipes, this year we're bringing in Italian bagpipes. First time to the United States. They're called Zamponia players, and we're bringing them over from Rome, along with some other Italian bagpipe members from the United States. And we're going to have, that's going to be the main part of our entertainment. I think it's going to be really unique, so if you have some time, you might want to stop by. And of course, all the great food's going to be there, including a gentleman who brings a wood-fired mobile oven. They'll be giving demonstrations on how to make great pizza and then cooking pizza at the square in the evening. So I think it's going to be a really great event.
Terrific.
Thank you again.
Thanks very much. Council, now we'll move to our action items. First is a public hearing on the 2nd Street water main project, and that is between Jackson and Madison. And we have had a bid opening, and I'd ask Jerry Long to come up. This is a public hearing, so I'll open the public hearing at this time. Ask if there are any comments. Go ahead, Jerry. We'll take your report then and see if there's anything else that comes up.
We opened the bids last Wednesday, and the engineer's estimate was $92,000 even. The low bid is G&R Miller from Washington, Iowa, in the amount of $60,733.50. The next low bidder is from Downing, Missouri. His name was Shane Poe Construction at $63,612.50. Third bidder is K&N Rating from Hamilton, Illinois. Their bid was $68,935. We had a local bidder, Bob Brown Excavating, next at $71,362. Next was another local bidder, Cross Iron Excavation Incorporated, $76,908. The next bidder was DeLong Construction from Washington, Iowa, $94,640. And the last bidder was Henniger Construction from Fort Madison, Iowa, and their bid was $99,049. So we were pleased with the number of bids, and G&R Miller has worked in our community before, and they're right there in Washington. We didn't see any reason not to award it to the low bidder.
Okay. Your recommendation of our engineer. We'll close the public hearing at this time, and we will thank the other companies that did provide bids for us. We do always appreciate that when we put bids out, and yeah, it is interesting that we received so much interest in this project. You have a recommendation from Jerry Long, French Rent-A-Curve, to accept the low bid. Is there a motion?
Move to approve G&R Miller as the low bid contractor for the water main on Jackson to Madison, 2nd Street.
Second it.
Moved by Hamilton, second by Rasmussen. Any discussion? Now, please call the roll.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Rasmussen?
Yes.
Silvers?
Yes.
Hallie?
Yes.
Revlinski?
Yes.
Hammond?
Yes.
Warrior?
Yes.
Next, council, we have a memo from Darrell Bisgard, our street superintendent, regarding the awarding of a seal coating contract. And there are generally two companies that we receive them from, Municipal Street Improvement, or MSI, and LL Pelling. Darrell did solicit those bids, and then came back with the low bid recommendation to go to Municipal Street Improvement. And that bid, let's see, cost of the total for the program is estimated at $124,000. And the Public Safety Committee has approved an additional $51,000. And I know this is in our report a little bit later on. Susan, do you want it? So that is included in this recommendation.
Yes.
So the streets that are listed here for seal coating are included the addition of the 51,000. Okay.
And we, the Public Safety and Transportation Committee recommended that we do redirect these funds.
Okay, very good. We had that discussion last time when we had the additional approximately $50,000 that was available because of the bid award for 227th Street. So that money is going to be moved into this seal coating project.
That was the money that was earmarked to do the east portion of
correct.
227.
Correct.
We had moved the engineering money to the railroad crossings, the quiet zone, and the remainder of the money that we had earmarked for would be appropriate to move into the
Yes, you're
street
absolutely right.
projects.
So I'd entertain a motion then to approve the bid by Municipal Street Improvement of $4.79 per square yard for the 2012 seal coating program.
Move to approve bid.
Moved by Hamilton,
Second.
second by Silvers. Any discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Hamilton?
Yes.
Silvers?
Yes.
Hallie?
Yes.
Warrior?
Yes.
Rasmussen?
Yes.
Hammond?
Yes.
Revlinski?
Yes.
Council, next we have set a public hearing for a 2012 budget amendment. You want that at our next meeting, Joy?
Yes.
Okay, so that'll be your May 28th council meeting.
29.
It's the 29th.
Yes, because we have
Memorial Day is
Memorial Day,
on.
so we'll be meeting on Tuesday the 29th. So thank you.
Yeah.
Entertain a motion to set May 29th for budget amendment hearing.
Move to approve.
Moved by Hamilton,
Second.
second by Boyer. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Thank you. Next, Council, you have your third and final reading for the vendor fee special events ordinance, which basically puts the control of the event organizers in the position to register and collect fees from vendors wishing to display on the square. This is a public hearing, so I'll open it at this time and ask if there is any public comment. Not seeing any public comment, we'll close the public hearing.
Mayor, I'd just like to say I did talk to Derek Wolfcool. There were a couple church lightly organized group regarding the band concert night, and he has no plans to charge vendors that evening for a band concert.
That's good. I have taken several calls regarding that particular event as well.
But I just wondered if the wording of our ordinance somehow requires it. You know, I mean, is there an opt-out? If we don't, our ordinance doesn't say it's up to the event organizer. It says if you have an event, you have to pay this fee. And so I you know, that's nice that he wants to enforce it that way, but personally, I think there should be that provision in the ordinance. You know, based on that, I would suggest some kind of amendment. I'm not sure what we worded here.
Well, let's just think of what language. I mean, since the municipal band concert is sponsored by the Park and Rec Department as a division of the city of Fairfield, that this could be, you know, outside of events that are organized outside of the city.
Could do that.
So if we can just find where in here.
But the event sponsor is also the enforcer to the fees and stuff that are being collected, so if they aren't wanting them, then.
I was thinking that too, if they just simply didn't care to, but I think John raises a good point. I think we are saying that if you're going to be a vendor on the square, then you must register and you must pay a fee with the event organizer.
Well, here it says that you must, okay, any direct seller, peddler, person, solicitor, or transient merchant must obtain a license from the city administrator or his designee and pay the appropriate fees as provided in this chapter to be allowed to conduct business, okay, during any city-approved special event, during local farmers markets and city, excluding local farmer markets and city-wide garage sales. It's a city-approved special event.
So we could say something like vendors that are applying for a city-sponsored event are exempt.
Just include it in the excluding, so it says excluding local farmers markets, comma, citywide garage sales, comma, and city events.
Okay.
And city-sponsored events or something?
Well, or you can just put that specific event, the municipal band concerts.
Yeah, I think it's nice to have an opt-out for an
organizer, you're saying.
Yeah, for an organizer in general, I think it's nice to have an opt-out. Maybe the organizer wants to encourage people to come. I don't know. Maybe.
The only problem with that is then they could kind of use that against the organizer too. I'll come to this and then just put my way over that there's an opt-out here for you. You don't charge, you don't want to charge, and it makes them the bad guy for making them pay.
The other thing, I just have to say, having heard this feedback from, the cookie people, there's like, we don't even make $40 from this thing. Just looking around Art Walk, how many vendors is this going to exclude in general because they don't, $40 is a pretty stiff fee, actually.
Well, I brought that up the first time because that was a real concern of mine during the first discussion. For the little organizations that don't necessarily aren't organized and big, but they still want to maybe they want to get their message out there and do a bake sale or something like that. They could actually be in the hole.
Yeah.
Well, I went out to the last walk and walked around the square and looked at the different vendors, and I can't say that I saw one that didn't already have a prepaid sheet from the Art Walk organizers for their minimum of $35 at this point in time. So I'd hate to use Art Walk as the example. I still believe that it should be up to the event organizer as to who they'll allow and who they won't when it comes to what's going on around the square when they ask for their event, because there'll be events like Power Wagon, Kiwanis Kids Day, or the car show the day after Kids Day, that they're going to have things going on the square, and they traditionally have people or organizations that have helped with their events that they want to be able to allow them to do that, again, without having to charge them the fee. And I think it should be up to the sponsor of the event as to how the enforcement of this ordinance takes place. Because basically that's what you're doing. You're saddling that event with either collecting the fees themselves or having an agent of theirs collect the fees, because the city administrator, even though they're said you could go to them to get one, isn't really the one that's controlling all of this going on. I think that was put in there as a convenience sake, because there are vendors that are going to come in that don't know the event organizers, and they're going to want to be directed to there to get this type of paperwork and pay a fee, up front.
So I must have missed something, because what you just said, in my mind, contradicts the reason why we were doing it. You said you want the event organizer to control it, but then we just said we'd allow people to come to City Hall and get their permits without the event organizer knowing it.
Well, that's what your ordinance says. Right here, any direct seller can get a license, obtain a license from the city administrator or his designee. And in this case, his designee means the event organizer. Art walk, kids, car show, power line, all things to time. That's what the designee is in this case.
However, if a hot dog vendor wants to go sell hot dogs tomorrow, he should have to pay this fee. This is in the ordinance already, in our current ordinance. Is my understanding correct? We do have some kind of vendor license required, so that's why I don't think we want to opt out. In here, I think it would be more appropriate just to exclude city band concert if that's what you want to do. Because I don't think that you want to completely wipe that out just because, you want some way to control it on an everyday basis.
So an organizer that has their event, then it's mandatory for them to come and get the paperwork, and it's mandatory for them to say, we need this fee from you, and it's an obligation that anybody that asks to be able to sell something up on the square at the time the event is going on, that the designee or the city administrator has to sell them that license. Is that what you just said?
That might have been what I said, but I guess that's not what I meant.
Well,
Like that.
there you go.
I understand.
So
I understand.
It goes back to
Yeah.
what I was talking about earlier, that the designee is the one that's really the controlling factor in what this ordinance is all about. And this ordinance was written keeping in mind one specific group that wanted to have it moved forward. Okay. There are many other groups out there that would rather not have anything to do with this at all.
So you're saying that we could have an opt-out for that designee if the city doesn't?
Yeah, I would say that the designee is the one that controls what goes on with their event. Because after all, it is their event. It's not the city's event.
Okay.
Whereas the band concert would be truly a city event.
But I still think you have to include that in the exclusionary language, because that section starts any direct seller, peddler, person, or solicitor.
Correct.
You must obtain a license.
It needs to be revised, and as such, I think then I would move that this not move forward through its full final reading, that it should be reworded and reworked in order to get the language correct, so that we don't do something that hamstrings events that truly don't want anything to do with this.
I would agree.
There are events that want stuff to do with this.
I second it.
All right, so we'll motion to table it for this evening by Hamilton, second by Revelinsky. We'll close the public hearing that we had on this first. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. I know that our city administrator was working on this ordinance. Is there a committee that would like to do a follow-up? Was there a committee involved in this initially? No, I don't believe there was. So I think it's Ways and Means.
It did come to us.
It got Ways and Means. So John, if you would meet with Ways and Means and consider the language amendment, or come up with some language, and then just get it to everyone ahead of time for some time.
Okay. No, this is good. It's worth it.
Okay. Next, council, we have another ordinance that have Jerry Long come up and explain exactly why we need to do this engineering specification by ordinance.
The explanation is pretty simple. There's no good reasons to do it. The real reason is that it's a state law that you have to do it. The bonding company, the bonding attorney that we're working with has diligently followed those rules to keep us in a position that the special assessments are collectible and enforceable. And this is just one step. And what you're doing is simply saying that the grade of 227 is going to be to this profile along the road, so that if someone were to build something out there between now and when the construction gets completed, they would know at what elevation to put their building, so that they could easily access the new road. And
Actually, it makes sense because we do approve specifications for projects before we fund them anyway, so it's just to this detail was kind of interesting. So it's an ordinance establishing the grade for 227th Street proposed paving. This promise this is the last step we take.
no, but I think so.
All
No
right.
promises. This isn't a ratification.
Yeah, and actually, council, since we are into the construction season, and this does have to be done by ordinance, I'm going to recommend that we suspend the rules and do this in one reading. First, mention that this is a public hearing on the first reading of this ordinance, so if there's any comment on that, I would accept that at this time.
I'll comment too. It prevents two kinds of lawsuits. One of them could come up during your construction period, like Gary says, and the other one is it could come up during the time of paying off your bonds if you have that kind of financing. So there is a possibility somebody could build their graded drive wrong and then say, you didn't tell me enough, and sue us. So you eliminate that, and that's why the bonding attorney's concerned.
I was being a little bit, but I agree with you.
Good.
Move to
Thank you,
suspend the
Joe.
rules.
Moved by Revelinsky to suspend the rules for 3 readings on this ordinance.
Second.
Second by Rasmussen. Please call the roll.
Revelinsky,
Yes.
Rasmussen,
Yes.
Silvers,
Yes.
Howley,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Abstain.
Boyer,
Yes.
Hammond.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Now I'll entertain a motion to pass the ordinance from the first to the third and final reading for approval.
So moved.
Moved by Silvers,
Second.
second by Hallie. Any discussion? Now please call the roll.
Silvers,
Yes.
Howley,
Yes.
Revelinsky,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Abstain.
Rasmussen,
Yes.
Boyer,
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Now, council, I have some appointments to the library board for your approval. There is one vacancy by Mike Nunn. There's also an open position on the board at this time, and the board has requested to add an additional member, taking it to 10 members of the library board, which is within their bylaws. The three people that I would like to recommend this evening are Lori Vaughn, Scott Howard, and James Pearson. And they have all come recommended by Rebecca Huggins, librarian.
Move to approve.
Moved by Hallie,
Second.
second by Hamilton. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Thank you. I have a proclamation that I would like to present to Chief Harvey proclaiming National Police Week, May 13th through 19th. And again, this is a time when we can just kind of reflect and show appreciation for the work that our police officers do in protecting the community. I'll just read one short paragraph from the proclamation. Whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the duties, responsibilities, hazards, and sacrifices that the law enforcement agency and members of our law enforcement agency recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence and disorder, protecting the innocent against deception, and the weak against oppression. That pretty much sums it up. It's a job that I know gets done very quietly by a very good force and under the capable leadership of Chief Harvey. So I'd like to ask the council's approval first for the proclamation, to approve the proclamation.
Move to approve.
Moved by Hallie.
Second.
Second by Hamilton. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Thanks. Yes. Thank you very much, Chief. Council, you had in your packet a letter from our representative, Lori Applegate of Alliant Energy. This was in response to a discussion that we're going to have in just a few minutes here regarding the use of radio frequency smart meters in the city of Fairfield through our water department. There has been some ongoing concern that Alliant Energy would have a program to install those within the community. They were initially named in a petition that we have received, and that their name has been removed because it's very clear from the letter and from conversations with them that they have no plans to install these meters now or in the near future. So we will, as I say, we will have that discussion in just a few minutes. Next, we'll move to committee reports, public safety and transportation. Susan, anything else other than what we did with our seal coating?
Yes, I did have a few things. The committee met on the 2nd of May and discussed several things. The first of which we received a request via John Revelinsky for
CL.
CL. CL?
CL.
Okay, CL. For a handicap space on Love Street. Her address is 413 North B. The committee discussed that, and we moved that we grant a handicap space to Ciela, as long as she's in accordance with the Department of Motor Vehicle handicap, which I understand that you do have that. So the committee would recommend that that move forward.
Thank you. And Ciela's home is on the corner, so this is just on the Low Street side, on the north side of her home.
Right, and I did drive by there, and B Street is very crowded and busy, and I understand why the Low Street location makes much more sense for you. So.
And you can't park on my side of the street on B Street.
Right.
Yeah, so that's good.
So then we have a recommendation to pass the request for a handicap spot on Low Street and corner of Low Street and B Street.
Now, are these identified by ordinance?
The
Locations.
the locations
that are
of
granted
them.
for handicap
John, I'm not sure.
accessibility?
I don't think they are there, and I think your ordinance allows you to do them on a distribution.
Okay,
So I would suggest just have a specific ordinance.
that would be fine. Then the other question that comes up in my mind, and I discussed a little earlier with John, was is the location near a handicap accessible ramp already?
Yes.
And it has the ADA requirement of the detectable warning pad.
Oh, yes.
Yes, it
It
does.
is, it was part of,
Yep.
is this in a location that's part of the Low Street improvement?
Yes.
Long, was
Yes.
this? You weren't sure, but it is?
Well, I mean, the Low Street is new there in front of our house.
Okay,
right?
Well,
okay.
she and
So-
Laura both know.
Right.
So those were my only concerns, because with federal guidelines being what they are these days, if there wasn't a handicap accessible location on the sidewalk there, we would have some concern as far as liability for the city to have to put one of those in by granting this.
You know, we just talked about the sloped.
Right.
It is.
Yeah,
It
we're
is. It
talking
was put
about-
into the sidewalk there. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sloped and it also
Right.
has
That bump.
Right.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, the orange
So that was
panel
done
with
within the last 2
Yep.
years.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or discussion? If we have a motion and a second, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Thank you.
There were a few other things that weren't specifically on the agenda, so we did not take any action, but I did want to bring them to the attention of the full council, just to kind of take our temperature here and see if we want to move forward with any of these. We can take them back to committee if we need to. Daryl Biscard did bring to our attention the 18th Street and the new sidewalk for the trail. It is out by where Meritor is, and the new sidewalk where the trail is. There has been, because of the manufacturing section out there, there has been semis that appear to have driven on the sidewalk, and we would like to preserve that. And so Daryl is suggesting that we actually place some no parking signs along that area there so that it's very clear that they should not be on the sidewalk. And I could see where it could be a little gray because there's gravel that butts right up to the sidewalk. So by placing some signs there, that should take care of that. We did not act on it, but we can certainly take it back to committee if we feel that that is something we want to pursue.
Did your committee agree that that would be the?
We did. Like I said, it didn't make the agenda, so we didn't take any official action on it, though.
Okay. That's fine. Why don't we bring it for action on the next agenda?
Okay. The next item would be, Daryl also suggested that we remove the handicap spot behind City Hall that we put in place for Linda when she was employed here because it's no longer used. So.
And that's
Is it
basically that's just west. It's just west of the alley.
Yes. So.
Do we have to take a motion on that?
Well, we did not. The committee did not make a recommendation again, but we can add this to our next agenda if no one's opposed to it.
By the way, I just want to mention as far as handicap, getting rid of handicap. You know, when we moved the handicap at the post office, we moved it from the center to the west parking spot right in front of the post office. But they didn't completely remove it from the center. It's still quite visible. There's some blue along the curb there, and it's not at all obvious that that's not a handicap. And so basically, to my mind, we have two handicap spots in front of the post office. Yeah,
it's very confusing. I agree. Every time I go there, I'm like, I don't want to be on a handicap.
Do you have a suggestion on how to remove the paint?
Well, I thought you're the expert at that.
Well, you can sandblast it. We don't have a sandblast
piece of
equipment to go out there to do that.
Daryl said
That's how they normally
they let the elements wear it away.
Yeah, that's basically what you have to do. And you have to trust that someone sees the sign at the end of the block, big blue sign on a post, that's no longer in the middle of the block.
Right.
Can't they use like a torch or something?
No, you do have to double twice. It's the same way with our space in front of City Hall.
Eventually it'll be gone.
Yeah.
You can be painted black, but then you've got blackout lines and everything, and a big black mark on the curb.
Okay. Well, if anyone will donate a sandblaster.
That doesn't satisfy me.
Well, I think if particularly in such a prominent place like that, why don't we speak with Daryl about it and see if there's a possibility of renting a sandblaster to do a little of that work or painting it. Anything else in your report, Susan?
One other thing has to do with a presentation, not at the last committee meeting, but the one prior to that, from Dallas Terry regarding a feasibility study for public transportation. We referred him to Daryl at that meeting. Daryl said that they spoke, and he didn't feel it was necessarily warranted, especially now that we have a private person that is offering taxi service. So our feeling was that we wouldn't move forward with that. But if that's something that the council feels that we should really take a hard look at, is a feasibility study for public transportation, in addition to what we currently have with the private and the CETA bus, we can take it back to the committee.
I guess I had met with Dallas initially, and then referred him to Jeff Clausen to see if that was something we wanted to do. And I guess he referred to committee. I think his idea was not just the public transportation, but the mode of transportation. I think he was looking for a renewable-based or a bio-based vehicle that could be utilized. But the surveying community for it, it's something that I hear fairly often, and I think from people who are aware of what our options are now. The taxi option is relatively new. But did the council receive the proposal from Dallas? The committee received the proposal from Dallas?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
could
Okay.
justify the
Yeah.
2,500.
Okay. Okay.
All right, so I think that concludes our committee report. We will take the 18th Street, no parking back to the committee, as well as the handicap spot in front of the post office. Do we need to take removal of the handicap spot in Washington back, or can we do that just by removing?
I think we'll bring that back as well.
Okay. All right, that's the end of my report.
Great, thank you. Next, we have a report from the Park and Recreation Board, a recommendation from the Park and Recreation Board. I'm going to ask Derek to come up and we'll have a discussion on what took place last week at the Park and Rec Board. This involves the beach at Waterworks Park. And, it has been functioning fine for years. It's not without its challenges at times. We had a little bit with vandalism and some dangerous swimming at one point, but we took out a dock and that seemed to rectify that. We have the Canadian geese that like to do their business on the beach, and keeping it clean is another issue, but we've had volunteers who've been very good about that. And Frank Wintrow appeared who was one of the people who spearheaded and has done really an awful lot to develop that beach and has put his heart and soul into it for many years, is no longer a volunteer for the beach, but appeared before the Park and Rec Board and was kind of pressing him a little bit for some support in the area of lifeguards and some more involvement there, anticipating that because the outdoor pool is going to be closed, that there may be more use of the beach. Well, through our budget process, we did not allocate funds for any additional help out there. And I think basically being told that that was the case, they started to discuss safety and health in that regard, and it came out that the committee decided to make a recommendation to close the beach, which surprised Derek and I think everybody else in the room. But we wanted to just revisit it. I spoke with Terry Cochran about it subsequent to that, and he's fine with the council making the ultimate decision on it, but it was just happened to be the recommendation that came out of their meeting. And Derek and I had discussed it, and we just basically thought if it was going to continue to operate the way it has been for the last 5 years, we should be fine. But Derek, has any comments on that?
No, I see no reason just to leave it the way we had it in the policy when we revisited it last year. I guess I just don't see we need lifeguards in the future with it, but we could always address it if it becomes a big hazard. So
right, and I have talked to some of the people who swim there regularly who had heard about this, and they've all kind of stepped up and said they would volunteer to help with whatever Park and Rec would like them to, including cleaning the beach as they've done in the past, or putting out some of the buoys for swimming.
yeah, but if the community wants a clean beach with, we do have a problem of geese coming to the beach. If we just don't have the time to allocate like we would like to full time, so we need the help of the volunteers to keep it the way the community wants to see it. So we need that support.
Okay, and I have said that I will reconstitute that committee also, so that we have a group that will do that and work with you to help manage that. Okay. So the issue before the council is.
I just have a couple questions,
Sure.
may I ask? I assume the Parks Department is really the department that's mowing the grass and everything out there. Are they the only ones out there? Is Recreation? Is your side out there at all doing anything currently?
Currently, mowing the grass or cleaning up the garbage on the Fridays. When we have to order sand, we order sand through Daryl that dumps it out there. Then we ask Carl to use his equipment to spread down on the beach. So all
you're
the
really
city
overseeing
departments
that.
are working together to get it done. So.
And there is no sign posted, there's no regulation about children at a certain age must be accompanied by adult. Is that correct?
No, there's no sign. We do have buoys out there as a courtesy, just to kind of, parents could say, stay within the buoys, children, kind of thing. Otherwise, we don't have to have the buoys out there, but we do that as a courtesy. So.
That's nice.
And it is signed, swim at your own risk.
That's correct.
So in other words, basically the city is not, in a certain sense liable if there should be an accident or something of that nature.
Well, we discussed this at length.
I mean, since you're supposed to be there as a parent if you have a child swimming, I presume.
John, can I
You'd
say
like to
yes
think so.
confidently in that?
Our state parks have moved towards that policy where, you used to have, if you went to like Ffcc or something, when you were allowed to swim there, you used to have, lifeguards for some time, and then as a rule, they took out the lifeguards and they just simply posted it, swim at your own risk. And so, there is that precedent.
I do want to mention, we got Dave Thomas here. I believe we do not have safety equipment if someone was out there drowning. I just do want to mention that to the council as well.
And that was made clear last year when our committee looked at this. And the policy we put in place has been working. I can see how some of these things may become an issue with the public pool being closed, but until we actually have to deal with them, I'd make a motion to keep the beach open as it's been.
Second that.
Any other comments?
I mean, if you want to keep a free swim at your own risk, I believe we can't have lifeguards out there. Swim at your own risk. And there are special certifications to have open water lifeguarding. So, I mean, if you're talking to Park and Rec needing those certifications, we'd have to go out there and do that. So.
Well, and that was, I had asked Officer Thomas earlier about that somewhat. There is a difference, and people need to understand that there's a big difference between someone that lifeguards at a pool, whether it's indoor or outdoor, being a clear water situation, and someone that lifeguards at an open water situation where it is not clean and clear and you cannot see more than a couple of feet down through the water. And the distress of a person in a situation like that can be vastly different in the scope and nature of a person in distress in a clear water pool. And so there has to be a more intensive training given or certification given to a person that is out there in that situation. And to my mind, I would think that a person, we wouldn't have that certification program anywhere near us in this area. I would think you would have to go to a community with a larger lake, like the
Des Moines, Grace Lake.
Des Moines or Okoboji or Spirit Lake or something like that, where they may have that type of lifeguarding certification going on. And I don't feel that it's within the city's best interest to try to certify a bunch of people by paying for all of the expense of going and doing this in order to give them a $7.50 an hour job. And I don't see anybody jumping up to volunteer to go do that, to come back and work at a $7.50 an hour job. That seems kind of crass when I say it, but the reality is that we really have to look at those types of scenarios when it comes to what our budgeting is and what we have to live within our means. And I think that while it would be a huge tragedy and distress on the community if anything ever did happen out there, I think that the city is doing a very good job of taking care of itself by allowing people to swim out there as long as they are under the understanding that they swim at their own risk. So I would say it would be a good thing to keep the beach open with those provisos.
And also with freedom comes responsibility. So the people who love to swim out there, I really hope that they step up and can be part of the mayor's committee, have an active committee that works with Park and Rec, and so it can continue to be a great place to swim.
Just to mention one thing as far as that committee, if there is a group of citizens who somehow are kind of keeping it orderly, one thing that might be appropriate, and maybe I'd like the city attorney's opinion on this, if there was someone who was sort of like that's clearly not a lifeguard, but at least someone who's like the, how you have like a camp ranger or something. If you go to like a camping place, they have some old retired couple that are just there kind of answering your questions or something. If you had someone who was sort of in charge, and that if some kids are putting a picnic table in the water and wanted to dive off of it, that they're not a lifeguard, but they say, hey, you don't do that. And someone who's kind of keeping the little boundaries in place, I think that would actually have a good effect on safety there in general.
So Joy was just telling me.
That comes back to your volunteer.
The water,
That's what I'm saying, exactly. That's what I want the volunteers to do.
That's where the volunteer steps
That's
in, because I mean, I don't think it's up to Park and Rec to provide that type of an individual.
I don't either, Martha. And that's what I was saying.
That if you want to have people swimming in the lake, then there needs to be a volunteer committee that says, okay, we'll take care of this,
And they can't be there at all times either. Somebody's swimming at 5 in the morning or someone's swimming at 8:30 at night. But that's fine. And Joanne just pointed out also that the water department actually has a nice perch from where they are, so when they see that type of activity, they'll generally call it into the police. But I agree with those points that there is greater responsibility that has to be taken, and I think it has. I think it has worked fairly well out there. I think people do look out for each other, and I think the people who cause trouble are the ones that are doing it when no one's around. So, anyways, good. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Now, please call the roll.
Hallie?
Yes.
Redelinsky?
Yes.
Boyer?
Yes.
Hamas?
Yes.
Hamilton?
Yes.
Silvers?
Yes.
Rasmussen?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Derek. Next, we have a report from the Environmental and Franchise Utilities Committee. And Michael, do you have anything outside of the meter issue in this report?
No.
Okay, so we'll just begin with that. Now, just as kind of a preface to the rest of the council, it came up probably less than 10 days ago that it was discovered by some residents that the city had been putting in a radio frequency water meter as a replacement to some of the older meters. And this brought a certain degree of alarm within the community because of the potential health dangers that come from the emission of these radio frequencies through this unit. There's a lot of scary stuff out there about this, if you look for it. And we're basically just beginning, the process of dealing with this as an issue. And I know that, in that short 10 days that's passed, there's been a lot that's been done already. And I think that's the report that you're going to get. But, my advice is that you move cautiously with this, because one of the things that I have not appreciated about the campaign thus far is that it does basically spread a lot of fear about potential dangers of the technology, and we have to walk through this in a way that is proven to us first. And I think Michael's committee is going to report on what they've discussed in that direction.
Yeah, so the committee met this morning at noon, this afternoon at noon. We wanted to move quickly on this because of the urgency petitioners had put on this, the feeling that this is something needs to be done right away. So I think the fact that we met before our next council meeting shows that government can be efficient when it wants to. Essentially, the meeting was not to argue whether or not this technology is or is not safe. At this point, the Waterworks Department has done its homework. Our sustainability coordinator did research. I've been researching it. So far, we haven't found any reason to say that we should pull these meters. We can't find any health effect that is directly tied to these meters. The water meters the Waterworks uses, I don't think can even be called smart meters. They only transmit, they don't receive. And so we call them radio read meters, which is probably a more accurate term. They do send a signal. It's every 14 seconds. It's a 7 millisecond signal, so it's about 44 seconds of the day that it's sending a signal. seemed to me that the most pragmatic solution was to do what other cities have done, which is offer an opt-out. If a homeowner doesn't want the radio read meter, they can get a non-radio option. The problem with that, or the issue with that, is it costs something to come in and change out the meter, and it also takes away the cost savings and safety benefits of having a radio read meter. The meter readers just need to get within proximity of their home to get the signal. They don't need to walk around the house and trudge through the yard and dodge dogs and such to get to a physical meter like the old-fashioned. So that's why these are becoming the standard. They're becoming the standard in this country. They're becoming the standard in Europe. So if you're going to opt out, someone has to pay for the replacement meter, and someone has to pay for the cost savings that are lost. So the opt-out programs in other cities around the country generally include a one-time switch-out fee and then an ongoing monthly fee. One in California that I'm aware of is $75 up front and $10 a month ongoing. The Waterworks Department has no problem with the billing of that. They'll use their own system to take care of that. So I asked Carl Chandler, who runs that department and knows what this would cost, to come up with a proposal for the council to discuss. The committee has not signed off on this in any way. We're simply bringing this to the full council. So his proposal was a $100 one-time switching fee, in addition to with labor costs, whatever it cost his department to come in and fix and to switch out the meter, and that's $75 per hour charged in half-hour increments. So that's the one-time fee that he proposes, and then an ongoing fee of $10 a month. It's completely open for discussion. Obviously, people are interested in opt-out, wanted that to be as low as possible. No one has thrown out any other numbers, but one person said 0, so I can just assume anything from here lower is the range that the people would like to see that. I did offer for a representative from the group to speak to the council briefly, just because there was a mix-up and they missed their chance to address the council. So, John, did you want to briefly, just before we start discussing this, make your points?
Okay, well, first of all, thank you very much, and I appreciate the efforts of Michael in a very short time to cover quite a lot of ground, and you know, it has been something that's been so interesting because 676.
Microphone,
John, please. Thank you. Speak. Is better?
It's not really going to amplify your voice. Just speak up. It's really for recording. There's a little bit of amplification there, but yeah, not dramatic.
Okay, 676 people signed that petition that came out just recently, and so there is concern in the community, and I'm not sure, Michael. I want to be sure that what I'm going to say now is not really just related to the opt-out. I think in general people are very, very appreciative of your efforts and having the opt-out option. And the concern is that it's not an onerous burden upon them for something that they feel is damaging their health and well-being. So that's basically the perspective on that. So would the council like to hear it's basically background and history of this particular phenomenon around the country and around the world, just a history and a background. Is that something of interest to you?
Yeah, no, that's fine. Whatever it is that you're going to present, John, is fine. The recommendation that's coming from the committee about opting out is in response to many people's being deeply alarmed by having those meters, and that was really the first thing that we wanted to address. In terms of research, science, doing our own testing regarding the emissions that are actually coming off of that is something that's just going to take a little bit of time for us in terms of the bigger picture, but we're glad to hear your report.
May I present to you, for those who are interested, unfortunately there are only...
If you have handouts, you can just pass them along, we can share them.
There are, unfortunately, there's only 7. I was here earlier today and somebody told me there were only 7 seats, but it's nice to see kind of. There are different ones all supporting material. And the background last sheet, that is the first one there, is basically the purpose of my making this presentation. First of all, to establish a clear recognition of the grounds for restraint. And to do that, because there isn't enough time to go into a really scientific consideration at this point, what you have there is basically documentation of a groundswell, really, of public opinion rising up in response to health issues and cost issues. The Attorney General of Illinois, for example, and the Attorney General of Connecticut are on record stating there's no evidence of cost benefits for consumers. So this is a significant factor as well. Thank you. Okay, so the document that you have there, the first page is, as you can see, by Richard Gray, science correspondent. A Council of Europe committee, which was made up of 47 member states and based in Strasbourg, is highly influential in policymaking. They cannot impose their will on governments, but they represent all of Europe, and they examined evidence that wireless technologies, there's been some confusion about what this Neptune smart meter is. It's a wireless technology. It transmits a high radio frequency signal, 980 million hertz, I believe, and it goes through space and is transmitted and received by another similar digital device. The committee's conclusion was that these technologies have a potentially harmful effect on humans. It concluded immediate action was required to protect children. In a report, the committee said it's crucial to avoid repeating the mistakes made when public health officials were slow to recognize the dangers of asbestos, tobacco smoking, and lead and petrol. So I think basically what the community is expressing in that petition is that this is something widely recognized to be a potential health hazard, and that the policy should be one following the precautionary principle. In other words, rather than putting the burden of proof on the people to prove that this is hazardous, there's an enormous abundance of evidence. You have documents there showing there have been more than 6,000 peer-reviewed submissions to peer-reviewed journals on the hazards of wireless technologies. That includes all wireless technologies. This Neptune water meter is one of those. And there have been a great number of municipal governments all over the United States who have, you have that document there also showing in California alone, 56 municipal governments have reversed their policies on the smart meters and smart water meters, and have about 13 of them have actually made it illegal to install these wireless devices in homes. So there are basically two fronts then that we see this very, very clear recognition of public officials caring about their constituents all around Europe and around the United States. The states of Vermont and Maine, and actually 9 states, have either offered their consumers to deny the installation of the meter, other states the opt-out programs. So that's basically the status right now, which has arisen by public response. There have been 8,000 official formal complaints in California of people reporting health problems from these meters. So the evidence is abundant, and it's growing all the time. Now, the specifics, I think what people here are really asking for, there are very, very high-level scientific minds in this community, and they are capable of doing, if you want specific research on this Neptune meter, they are certainly capable and qualified to do very good research on that. And I think at this point, what people are asking is restraint and not going ahead, not shooting first, asking questions later from their perspective, but to show restraint and prudence and the safety first principle to really ascertain that these meters are safe if they're going to be put in people's homes. And And the significant point that will come out is if there are debates, theoretically, about these meters, these specific meters not being as bad as other meters, or any of those concerns, the bottom line is a lot of people are getting sick and they're reporting it. And their experiences are being reported. So it is certainly not difficult to find evidence. And there are people here in this community who are reporting consequences. I happen to be one of them. I've had it without knowing it for 6 months, and I've had a sore throat for 6 months. I've had it for longer than 6 months, but the sore throat has been for 6 months, and other symptoms that we don't need to go into. But it's my experience, and it's the experience of people I know. And so that's basically the objective here. We definitely appreciate the opt-out. It's very responsible, and you know, it is reflecting a concern that, you know, is greatly appreciated. But of course, the onus of an overly costly burden being placed on us is not really, you know, people aren't happy to accept that. But overall, and this is especially relevant because, as you have mentioned, right now Alliant is not planning on going forward, but they certainly are not declining. They have a substantial financial investment, obviously, and they're saying sometime in the future. So it's a precedent that would be really good to be very well prepared and to start with the safety first principle on the existing smart water meters. And if at all possible, with anybody who can engage in this dialogue, you know, we're asking for a more open dialogue with those members of the community who have the scientific expertise, so that we can be very comfortable that the safest policy is followed.
Thank you, John.
Based on, let me just finish my report and we can discuss. Based on all the research we've done, there's no causal effect between the Neptune meter and any health issue that we can find. So we consider the technology safe, and the Waterworks Department considers rolling it out to all the homes in Fairfield. Currently, it's in about a third of them. They have a mandate from the DNR to replace all the meters every 5 to 7 years, so this is going to continue to roll out. What we want to do in the future is any homeowner who doesn't currently have it, before it's installed, gets the opt-out option. That's the idea. Anyone who currently has it also gets the opt-out option, so it's there for everyone. But I don't know if this group was asking for an all-out ban. That's not on the table at this point. We're just talking about an opt-out. So basically, I just want to discuss. You got Carl's proposal. Go at it.
I have a comment on Carl's proposal. I think it's good. I think it's reasonable. You know, there is a specific hard expense of changing the technology from the wireless radio emitting device to. What they do is they put a device that actually runs a wire out to some box or something on the outside of the house, and they come with a little piece of equipment that actually hooks up to that box, and then they can read the meter specifically through that wire. And so they used to have these things, and way back when I was a kid, people had to come in your basement to read your meter, and then they went into these things where they would be little like digital counters, not even digital, but little split-bod counters that would be there, and they weren't that accurate. But these actual wired devices, which became very prevalent and are installed basically on most homes other than those with radio meters, do cost money, and so I think it's appropriate, the $100 charge. I think it's appropriate. He said, you know, if it's a simple thing, it might be, you know, just the minimum, the half hour a time. But if it's complicated, it stands to reason that that person, the homeowner requiring or requesting that change, have to pay for it. So I think that's all reasonable. The thing I take issue a little bit, and I didn't have a chance to discuss this anymore with Carl. I just didn't. I tried calling him and I wasn't able to do it. I mentioned it to Michael, but my feeling is that $10 a month is a little more than needed. On one hand, I think it's a lot of money because the difference from the water department side is that they're going to drive down the street with the in their car, staying in the cab with the radio control meter, and they can just read it from there. The other
sometimes they have to get out.
Sometimes they may have to get out even on that, but then but they don't have to come too close to the house. The difference is without that, with the old style, they have to actually walk up to the house, and so you're paying someone $10 every month to just come out from their car or come out from the sidewalk and now up to your house. To me, that seems high. I don't think our cost. I don't think there's a cost. It doesn't.
Let's have a discussion here, please. Hold your applause.
I think that's more than recouping our costs. I think it was very fair as far as recouping our costs for the installation of the meter and the time to take to, rewire it. But $10 a month, it seems punitive. It's like, well, okay, we're going to penalize you for having this opinion that those meters are harmful. Now, I don't know if they're harmful or not, but I think it's someone's right if they don't want to have that in their house not to have it. I don't think they should have to pay a penalty. I think they should cover costs associated with it. I would propose there should be some monthly fee because there is some hassle to it. I mean, it's but I would propose $5 a month. I think that would be reasonable and not punitive.
So, John, I'll tell you, like I told the people at lunch when they brought up the penalty discussion.
Yeah.
I don't feel like it's a penalty. I feel like it's the city being flexible and allowing an opt-out program. And with that flexibility, there is a cost associated with it.
Well,
so I would like for us not to view it as a penalty because I really don't feel like it is.
Okay.
I think it's a way for the city not to take hard stance, and we're trying to be flexible and respect those opinions of others. So we're really not looking, and you can stop me if this is wrong, but the committee is not looking at this to penalize those who have a different view.
No, well, I
So I just want to make that.
Well, I appreciate it, but why would it be the hard? I mean, why would we set that fee versus $5? I think if 100 people opt for this, that would be $500 extra a month that we're paying to have someone walk 20 extra feet to 5 extra houses, or maybe 40 extra feet.
Yeah, the idea was just to cover the costs, not to penalize or profit.
But do you really feel that our cost is that high?
I don't know. I asked Carl. He runs the department, so it's his proposal. We can discuss it.
Well, it sounded like the $10 came from other model programs.
I think he got it from others.
He wanted
Yes,
12, and I
exactly.
talked
You want to discourage this, is what the point is. I think maybe for the committee side.
That's
You can't
not
know his
true.
thinking on that.
No.
But I think we do need to take into consideration that this is different than the city's view, the way we took it to move it forward. So because we've gone forward with wanting to do the new technology, the opt-out piece of it has now become a manual process. So with that, goes the extra steps, to make sure that that's taken care
The
of.
extra time of the meter
Yes.
readers, right?
Yeah.
And so I guess that's my point. To me, in my mind, it doesn't seem that it's going to take the $10 worth of extra time for the meter readers.
Well,
to do
maybe
that.
we can go back to Carl and ask him to,
I would
put the pencil to
recommend
the
that.
paper and kind of.
Well, I think he tried to give us, some basic, fee today when he was, meeting with the group and meeting with the committee at the time. And, that was when he sort of set the $100, installation starting at that fee and then the monthly fees. So,
I think
Right, and can I interject here just a little bit? In January of 2010, Susan, Ray, and I were on the utility committee, and we rewrote the ordinance for water and water meters required. And in chapter 1404-170, section B, in addition to the requirements concerning meters in subsection A of this section, effective June 1st of 2010, all customers shall be required to have a remote reading device installed in servicing their meter. So if we have an opt-out program at all, it's going to have to be by ordinance. It can't be by a resolution. It can't be by just generally saying that it's going to happen.
Sure.
We have an ordinance that we will have to modify in order to accommodate this. Now, I've been the chairman of the Utilities Committee for several years. I think it's been 6 or more at this point in time. We haven't purchased the meters that use the gun that Carl was talking about this afternoon for quite some time. We haven't budgeted that type of meter in our budget for utilities, and it would be an extra expense for the city to reinstitute buying those meters. And Carl also hit on a very good point that those meters have to be wired, hardwired to a device on the outside of your house, that the meter reader has to physically come up and touch that instrument to that plate in order to get the reading. Once that reading is taken, it's electronically transported from that older system to the newer system. And as we all know, technology advances at a very rapid pace. At some point in time, that particular technology is going to become obsolete. And the only way to repair it, restore it, fix it, is going to be put back onto the city to be able to try to find something as a replacement. As remote readers become more ingrained into everywhere and everyone's life, like Wi-Fi, cell phones, PC computers, laptop computers, handheld computers, we're going to see a move away from that type of technology on a more rapid pace. So what's going to happen is eventually we're going to get to a point where we won't be able to service that any longer. The technologies mesh right now. Carl even told me that this afternoon, that they can touch the little black plate on the side of your house and it will automatically send the signal from that device to the new device that they use to download all the information for your water usage into our computer system here at City Hall. So we're fine for the time being. The DNR has placed unfunded mandates, as all state agencies are really good at doing, onto cities, that they should be required to replace all meters, water meters, on a rotational type basis every 7 years. We're supposed to go through and do all of this work. And even though there's only a third of the community that currently has those remote read meters in their homes, the program is to swap out according to the DNR mandate so that we are up to date on how we bill and how our water system is monitored. Okay? This isn't something that we have a choice, that we can't just say, okay, I'm not going to do this DNR mandate. We know what happens with that. We're all facing that with sewer issues right now. But there are more costs associated with it than somebody just jumping out of a truck and going up and touching this little
There may
house.
be more costs. I'll grant you that.
I truly believe that there is more costs.
Well, right now the devices are available for the amount that Carl stated. And so what you're saying is, well, let's save up in case later they cost more and then we have to...
What I'm saying is right now, next month, somebody could come to the door of a person that doesn't have one of these remote readers in their homes and say that it's time to change your meter out. And if we create this opt-out program, within 7 years after you get that meter, we're going to come back to your door and we're going to knock and we're saying it's time to change that technology out.
Right.
So
we may. We haven't. I've spoken with Carl about this also, and we haven't been keeping up with the 7 year
no,
at this point.
we haven't.
We don't, and they haven't really.
A lot
they
of
also,
cities haven't, but we're trying to do it at a pace that is attainable by the force that we have at the present time.
Well, Darren, I agree that we should pass along our costs to people who want an extra service or special service. They should pay for it. To me, I think in the future, if we find that to replace these meters it costs a premium, or to renew them, or when we need to renew them that it costs extra, I think we could keep it open, and then at that time, we could adjust the monthly fee or adjust the installation fee or whatever at that time. But since the meters are available now, the technology is the current technology we've been using.
We currently don't purchase that.
We don't purchase them,
but
but Carl was pretty clear that we can get them.
Can I ask a question? What was the justification for both a one-time fee and labor cost?
Labor cost was based on the fact that
The labor cost, I understand. What was the one-time fee?
To purchase a special
for
order.
the meters, special order
For the
meter,
meter.
For the
they put in their home.
which is not in the water budget at the present
Correct.
time.
Yeah, it's not the budget.
So we're replacing it with something that we have to buy, and that will cover the cost.
Mhm.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And I have no problem with the program for people to opt out. I don't want anybody to
Okay.
think that I've
Well,
got some
Darren, I think you raised
dog in this fight.
the first point that you raised is that this has to be changed by ordinance. So
Mhm.
what we'd like to do then is just to basically the committee come back and craft that language and make a decision on the fee structure, on the fee schedule, and then bring that back to our next meeting for the first reading of that ordinance. Now, I do agree that that the full picture looks a little onerous financially, and I just think that I would just advise the committee to take a hard look at that and see if there's anything that we can do to accommodate in that area. I'm not so opposed to the ongoing monthly charge, because the example that I used for myself is that I agree to buy my power through Alliance Second Nature program that is produced by wind energy, and I willingly will pay that service charge for that. And I think the service charge, in order to not have that the effect of that meter in your home, is probably worth that. But I would like the others to be reviewed. Obviously, that can be reviewed too, based on John's suggestion. But I think that before we set the fees, that we really take a hard look and possibly get some estimates of what Carl really thinks the time is going to be to change these particular meters out, and then have that come back to the council at the next meeting. So that everyone understands, this has to go through an ordinance process in terms of changing it. It's a 6-week process, so we're looking at about 8 weeks before something like this could pass. We have a council meeting in 2 weeks, and we'll have to go through a reading there, and at the following 2 council meetings to be successfully passed. In the meantime, John, I appreciate your presentation and the points that you made. And I think that the thing that concerns me the most, and not discounting the information that has been presented from around the country and around the world as far as the dangers, it's just that we do have the capacity within our own community to test this. And I will be meeting with several people tomorrow to begin that process. We have scientists, and we can set up something that so that we all know. Hopefully, it'll be a little more comforting to us what we discover. And if not, then we will have the discussion as a community about what these effects are. Michael had mentioned at the meeting today that Carl Chandler himself personally said that if these had some proven health deleterious effects to this particular meter, he would be the first one to recommend that they would all be removed. But we're a long way away from that point. And I think there is a lot of research that we can do within our own community. The people that aren't here tonight that I've heard from also are people with backgrounds in electricity and backgrounds in radio frequency and backgrounds in microwave who say the opposite, who say basically the output on these units is so small that it doesn't even compare with a cell phone. Somewhere in the middle lies the truth. Let's find it. And I think that's the course that we want to take in terms of the bigger picture of finding out what that influence is. But at this point in time, it's an open issue, it's an important issue, but we will definitely take those steps.
And my committee will work diligently to try to find that low cost. If we can shave anything off of this, obviously we will. The problem is that we don't work at the Waterworks Department. We don't know what their costs are, so we have to take the department head's word of what the cost is. But I can ask him again, is there any way we can shave some of this off? And if at some point later he realizes he's losing money in it, amend the ordinance.
So there'll be no action taken on that this evening, but thank you for the report and for the opportunity to get this out in front of our community so that we can begin the process of discovering what it is that is behind the concern for the health effects. So that brings us to the end of our meeting. Is there any other business for the council? Not entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Moved by Hamilton.
Second.
Second by Rasmussen. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Meeting adjourned.